marriage counseling, throw in the in-laws. The way you looked at me. Oh, babe, remember this?
Daddy's not here.
Where did Daddy go?
They put in the toilet.
My parents are coming tomorrow.
Your parents are coming to stay with us? Well, no, I know I said I wanted help, but, when they say you marry someone's family, they're not lying. Honey, did you put the laundry in the bin? I did. Okay. So this is called the calming corner. If he misbehaves, it's really important that
You go old school, take out the spoon.
no, we should have a date night.
Oh, I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
Honestly, I don't even care at this point. What do we talk about? Check, please. I'm in a rut with everyone. So it's 8 o'clock.
Bars are open.
We should just get a McFlurry. I'm just worn out. Is there an underlying issue you see with new parents?
Reflection, whether it's time or understanding.
A lot of couples, us included, you sort of have an ability to tolerate a certain amount of like difference, and then a baby comes and it's that thing you're doing isn't okay anymore. I didn't mind doing the dishes every night, but I mind doing the dishes every night. You have a capacity to tolerate that as soon as a baby comes, that capacity just done.
Which is like what I kind of think about is like your context has changed and become stressful. And anytime there's stress, everyone's ability to deal with that stress like diminishes. And then what happens is, because we have normal responses to challenge and stress, what I think we don't reflect on is how we individually respond to stress, and then how that impacts the way we think about, feel about, look at our partner. So all of a sudden, I'm stressed, and all of a sudden, the problem is Erin. The problem is that Erin's not doing a bunch of stuff and then I can like think, oh, there's all this stuff. Yeah, and for years it's been this, and you never, and like, and like.
That doesn't happen.
That's the story. That's the story that happens. But honestly, if I just stopped and said, well, wait a second, like I'm just super stressed out. So everything feels worse.
Yeah.
You kind of removed it from like it's Erin's fault to, wow, we're stressed. And we're having a tough time dealing with it. How could we deal with this stress together rather than at each other? Context changes, stress enters in, you can't reflect, and it's just like it's a mess.
Speaking of that context and being stressed, let's throw in like a mother-in-law or like your own mom. They're trying to be helpful, but for some reason it seems to be like almost more stressful. Can you give some advice on how to create like an effective boundary?
I think those boundaries, it's so much more helpful when they have been established before. If they're not, to anticipate those, to talk to your partner in a way that is curious and kind. I think partners get really defensive about their parents a lot of times, and not all the time, but it's easy to say like, your mom's this way, it drives me crazy when she does this.
Right.
And that's always going to bring up defenses before you ever even get anywhere. So if you can have a conversation together where it's like, hey, Stephen, I really want my mom to come. I know you're already feeling overwhelmed. I know you have a big week at work. It would be super helpful for me. What would it be like for you?
Right.
To bring things up together before I say, hey, my mom's coming tomorrow. And he's like, I love your mom. Is there any way that we could have talked about this? Like, because we're the we. We talk about that. Like, we have to feel like a we. And if I'm making it feel like you're joining me and my mom this week, it's pretty dismissive, and it's going to put him on the defensive, and he's going to be ready to pick at my mom all week long.
And I think that's the conversation for the couple. And then with you have to like have those same kinds of conversations with your parent, like with the mother-in-law, with your parents. Like, there's
and
nothing
both
wrong.
of you there, or is it like if it's your mom, you're there, or your mom, you're there?
I think that's probably relationship specific. I think it probably would go best if it was a couple, because that way it's not like, hey, mom, Stephen doesn't really feel. I think it just keeps it from getting like I'm the interceptor of their relationship, because I don't want to be that.
Right. You want to all be able to talk about the kind of relationship you want. I mean, hopefully that's the deal. It's not just Erin and then me. So I think that having those conversations, I think being okay with like, hey, this is going to be awkward. Like, hey, we might have some things to figure out, and making it like, okay, not like a threat can really work. And I think you can have those kinds of conversations if you have parents who are open and like if you have that experience with them.
And we really do hear a lot of, so in this situation, grandparents who want that, who want to feel like I want to come and be helpful. I don't know what that is. And so a lot of times people think boundaries are like kind of aggressive or mean. Really, it's just like, this is the way that we're all going to get along best. And we want you involved. We want you to come. And when you come, we really want it to go well for everybody. This is how it would be best for us. What would be best for you? And to make it really collaborative
experience. And I think, like there are in-laws who do not want to collaborate.
Yeah.
And that's maybe more of my experience with my parents who are consistently kind of like, look, you do things our way and that's it. And it's kind of like, but this is like my family and my kid, like, how do we, and if there's not an openness to have some kind of flexible, how can we collaborate? That's different.
Really different.
That's different because
it gets rigid fast. Like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, we can't allow that. And ideally, that's not what anyone wants. Everybody wants to be in an open, like, I feel nervous to say this, but I really don't like my mom, when she used to come, she would fold my laundry because she thought it was really helpful, which 9,000 of the 10,000 people who see this are going to be like, where can your mom come to my house? It drove me crazy. Like, I didn't like that. And so finally I was like, Mom, thank you so much. It's not helpful. Like, it gets under my skin. And for that to be okay. So being able to be open, curious, collaborative, like those things, and understanding that boundaries are kind. It's a real like invitation. This is how you can be a part, and we want you to be, for the baby, for us, for you. Like, it's going to be better if we all feel a part.
And I think a great entry line is like, hey, Mom and Dad, like, you know what? I appreciate y'all so much, and I want us all to keep being close as a family. And like, I'd love to have a conversation about whatever it is, because I want us to feel close. And, this feels important. And it feels like this maybe is getting in the way or whatever it might be. Like, but yeah, expressing like, I'm doing this because we
want you around.
I like you, like that kind of thing.
And if it is toxic, what's the quick?
I think that's where you and your partner decide, what do we want this to look like? And then you do have to say, this is what it's going to look like.
So you set that boundary more rigidly.
Exactly. Yeah, it does have to be rigid.
Right.
And it is collaborative.
And if it can't look like this, then this is what it's going to, like, this is what's sort of the outcome of that.
I think to have the mindset of, we've asked you to do something and you have chosen not to. So you are choosing to separate yourselves from us. We are not withdrawing from you. Like, we want this to work. This is how it could. Yeah. You can either respect that or not. That's your choice.
So you guys obviously communicate super effectively. I mean, it seems like you guys have a very strong foundation.
Always.
Always. There's never any fights or anything, obviously. So what's your advice for parents that don't communicate as effectively as you guys do?
Well, we have degrees in this. Like, we've worked on this. We stayed in the middle of it, which is part of why it was so hard, because we sort of over-talked everything.
Right. The thing is, you have to work at it. If you're struggling, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with struggling. Like, welcome to being a human being. It's part of life. What the question is there a willingness to work at this together? And if there's a willingness, there's all kinds of things you can do. If there's a lack of willingness, then you are in a stuck place, and there needs to be questions about how come you don't feel willing, or there needs to be a conversation about like, well, what can we do to like move to a place of willingness, because
everybody has to learn. Yeah. And I think that's one of the big things specifically for parents too, is we felt like we did communicate well and now we're not. So is something wrong? Did I make a bad decision? Were we always going to be terrible? Will we always be terrible? Like, no, we just have to learn again, because everything is super different.
Everything's changed. You got to learn a new way of doing things.
One of our sort of taglines, is that a thing? I don't really know, but like, people love to say like, we'll work on us again. Like, we'll work on us again when the baby's actually born, or the baby's sleeping, or they're back in school, or like, there's always going to be something you can fill in that blank with. And like, the time really is like, let's try like a small thing.
It's not we'll work on us when, it's we'll work on us now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and in taking that mindset, like that you still have to grow. Your relationship has to grow. It has to change with context. You have to work at it. It doesn't just happen. I think there's that perception like, well, if you really love each other and it's great, it's just going to happen. And they're like, well, maybe, like, you know, yeah.
We'd love to meet them.
Yeah.
They seem great.
Me too.
Yeah, right?
Overall advice for new parents.
One of my favorite things is to talk about and grieve what you are missing about that old relationship, and then to talk about and celebrate what you are liking about what is new, and having space for both. People get stuck sort of in one place or the other. Often, not everybody, but like where they only like, gosh, it was way better then. And kind of miss all the ways it's really great. That's one of the reasons I don't love when Steven says stress, because it makes it seem like having a baby's bad, because no one loves stress.
I don't mean that. Yeah.
But it is hard, but it's also spectacularly beautiful and wonderful. And not to diminish how hard it is. Like, I just think there can be a lot of balance when people don't feel threatened one way or the other. I'm allowed to be sad, and like minute to minute, I'm allowed to be super sad that X, Y, and Z, and also like cry my eyes out because I just saw the way our baby like smiled at you and like, all right, you know, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think another thing, like, it's important to understand how your past is informing your present. So in other words, like, how did you see your parents parent? What was your experience when you were growing up? What are your expectations? And this is where that reflection piece comes in. Like, well, what did you expect it to be like? And so when you're struggling with communication, like, what did you expect this conversation to be like with your partner? What did you expect it to be like when you had kids? And like to talk about those things, because oftentimes you're kind of reacting to past things rather than being like in the present. But it feels like you're in the present. And it's like, well, no, actually, you're just like, you're thinking about a lot of old expectations, a lot of old experiences. And
without even knowing you're thinking about them. We are products of every place and every interaction and every relationship we've been in.
And those can be wonderful and they can be challenging.
But it's the little things that get you derailed. And it really is the little things that get you right back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Our business is called Create Your Couple Story because we really think couples do get to choose. We are a family. Yeah. If you're intentional about it, like, this is how we do things. And this is how we want our kid to see us interact. And these are the kinds of humans we want to like grow and raise and support. And
what story do you want to tell about your life as a couple and as a family?
Steven and I met when he was finishing up his master's in counseling, and I was just headed off to do mine. I got a master's. A couple years later, we got married. Then he went on to get a PhD.
I have a PhD in medical family therapy, which is basically like marriage and family therapy, but specifically with family systems and couples who might be struggling with acute and chronic illness. And so for my research, I specifically looked at couple relationships and how they deal with loss and grief, specific to the issue of miscarriage, but it also ended up kind of being specific to the issue of infertility. So I'm a licensed therapist. I've been a therapist for 13 years. And
we had always wanted to work together.
I think what we had always wanted to do was do things for couples that weren't even necessarily therapy, but just were like therapeutic. And we just wanted to help couples be healthy because we felt like we had been helped to be healthy. Although we're not like, you know, obviously we struggle, but we wanted to give that in a much more accessible way.
Yeah, which is the Create Your Couple Story.
And so, which is our Instagram handle.
Which is the Couples Counseling for Parents. We just think it doesn't have to be that far out of reach to have some skills, some more dialogue, more conversation. We totally believe in therapy. Yeah. We just don't think that all contexts can get that, and really not all need it. Yeah.
For us too, like, we're a couple just like everybody else, and we have fights and we have really hard times and we feel really close sometimes and we feel really, really far apart. And it's not that like there's a way to be perfect as a couple. There's a way to be healthy, and that's really hard. But there are some simple basic tools in ways of relating that can help you get through all that stuff and feel close. So,
and not many couples would choose to work together, I think. So it's amazing that you guys can do it effectively and you wanted to work together.
Effective is a good word. Like, so it's hard.
Sometimes it's really hard. We both are super different people. We excel in different ways, and that is one thing that helps it to work well. We can delegate and say, like, will you do that? You do this.